Good evening. We just finished executive session. I want to make a note that Tony Garrick did make the meeting, so we did have all 5 commissioners for the executive discussion. We'll start tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Gary.
Here.
Pepcorn.
Here.
Preston. Here. Strand.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here. Health. December 1st is the World AIDS Day. Fargo County Public Health provides free and confidential HIV testing Monday through Friday, and results are available in about 20 minutes. Evening testing is also available Monday and Thursdays. For those living with HIV, starting treatment early means a person can live a full, healthy, and productive life. Library. The Fargo Public Library will take part in the James Webb Space Telescope Challenge through December 31st as part of a historic launch of the largest telescope ever created. Children ages 12 and younger can log into the library's Beanstack app and complete activities to earn digital badges while learning about the mission. The Holiday Cookie Club for teens and adults runs December 6th through the 12th, where participants can share photos, recipes, reviews, and baking experiences, and then assemble recipes for a mini cookbook. Tonight, the Cons GA team has 2 videos for us. The first highlights the lighting of the 2 holiday trees at City Plaza to kick off our 150 years as a community. The second showcases the ribbon cutting of the Fargo Public Schools Explorer Academy. Several city departments, especially the Fargo Fire Team, collaborated with Fargo Public Schools to make this excellent project become a reality. Enjoy.
Welcome everyone to an incredible special moment for this community. We are here this evening to celebrate the opening of the community market and the commencement of the holiday season. This is also a special moment because it represents the kickoff of Fargo's 150th year since it was founded.
3, 2, 1.
We wanted people to feel we're lighting up this town for the holiday season and to remember we're 150 years anniversary that's happened in the community. So it's a symbol next to the City of Fargo sign there that, hey, we're here, we're celebrating it, and we want people to enjoy the community, come out and celebrate our 150th anniversary.
We recognize that no 2 learners are the same. So whenever we try to standardize education for all students within a district, we know we're always going to leave students behind. That's why the board was very bold in what they did by creating the first investment into students, recognizing that maybe there's a different group of students that have different needs from everyone else. But that's okay, because that's our responsibility, and that's why we're here.
Here at Explorer Academy, we strive to support the whole child by embedding social-emotional learning into every facet of the day. Staff build relationships with every student to guide and engage them in self-regulation skills to enhance their academics. We utilize every area of this space to learn with intentionality and care.
This is for the state of North Dakota to understand how people can come together to serve children. They can't always control the conditions and how they're growing up, but we can control what we provide them as a community.
There's a lot of research out there that supports learning in the Smart Lab, and it's not always just content learning, right? It has the ability to really help students critically think. It has the ability to help them talk with one another, to communicate with each other, to ask questions, to be okay with failure. And I think that that's a really, really important part. Not all students learn from those traditional ways of teaching. So let's change the way we teach them too.
The Explorer Academy is a wonderful addition to the City of Fargo. It meets the needs of many of our young people, and it really does it in a very determined and researched way of approaching many of the children in our community. I think it'll give the children more confidence as they face the challenges of the world, get into the workforce and what they need to do. And they just have so many opportunities in this facility to fulfill the educational opportunities they want to do. I was very pleased to find the fire department worked very much with the facility to make them have the ability to do certain things they wanted to do.
I want to thank the City of Fargo, the City of Fargo's fire department, for being bold, being brave, making sure that they can create a new system, looking at a new code for a school system that's breaking the norm. The power of this building is going to be the stories that are untold on a day-to-day basis. Because those are the stories of normalcy. Those are the stories of a student receiving an education. But what the true reflection of this building really will be.
It was interesting to go to an event, find out the fire chief changed the code for some reason, but nicely done. Do I have a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
I so move. Second.
Moved and seconded. We're delaying items 34A and 35A for 2 weeks. You're still okay with the first and second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 15th, 2021 regular meeting?
So moved.
Arlette Preston, is there a second?
Second.
Tony? Gary? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 35, excluding items 34A and 35A, which have been delayed?
So move. Second.
Moved in second. Strand and Garrick. Roll call vote, please.
Strand.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Preston. Aye. Mahoney.
Aye. Regular agenda, we're going to go to the residents' comments. Angela Karma is on first. Karna. She's on video virtual. So can we hook her up?
Oh, I'm here whenever.
Okay, we can hear you.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Anjali Karna. I grew up here in Fargo, but tonight I mostly speak as a first-gen Asian immigrant. I am passionate about this ordinance because of my own experiences with frightening and occasionally sexually violent situations because of my race. My hope in telling you this is that you take this ordinance with serious consideration, as it has the fuel to protect people from one of my greatest fears, and a fear I think many people do not understand our proximity to within the massage parlor industry. Being Asian and female in America means that you cope with a lot of fetishization, manhandling, crass comments, and at worst, sexually violent behavior. Asian cultures are sexually in high demand to certain groups of hateful people in the U.S., and there's simultaneously a lot of hostility against Asian people as well. And in the dark area of human trafficking, these two issues are combined. I experienced my first hate crime last summer when a man held a realistic fake gun up to me and my dog, who I was holding in an alley, and told me to go back where I came from. I experienced my first sexual assault in college by a man who thought my complexion and stature were superior to those of other races. In the past, I've used dating apps and have received incredibly violating and detailed comments about what people would do to my body if they had the opportunity, throwing in stereotypes of Indian figures and faces. The threat of violence towards Asian women is very real and usually neglected, as Asian women live out a life of sexual assault unprotected by the massage parlor industry. Just 2 months ago, I received a call from another barista saying one of our regulars may or may not be affiliated with sex trafficking. I don't have a car, and to be careful. In that moment, I felt very aware of my race, size, and the demand for sexual acts by women specifically who look like me and other Asian women. While I understand the nuance of how this issue comes to be, it's scary to know there are so many women in our city hoping for a better life who are trapped into performing sexual acts on old, decrepit white men. I assume everybody in this meeting tonight unanimously believes that sexual acts should always be enjoyable, humanizing, and a choice. For many Asian women, that is not an option. Living your life trapped in somebody's sexual fantasy is not just grotesque, but it is sexual slavery. While there is nuance, that is what human trafficking is. What leads to human trafficking is preventable, and all women trapped in the world of sexual assault deserve protection. A life of undesired sexual acts is not a life, and the lifesaver is a step that has been placed in front of us tonight. I hope you consider your role in preventing this hell for people in your city. It's a simple step and an important one. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Mounts.
Thank you. I'd like to speak about the wildlife program. In your vote you're going to have tonight, I would actually like to encourage you all to delay the vote at least for 6 to 8 months. This past year it was brought up in June 1st to cancel the program for this year. I think if you're going to vote to cancel the program for next year, you could wait till June and have the same result. By waiting, you would allow yourself more time to get more information and become more informed about the program. You'll also have two key points of information. One, at the conclusion of this year's hunt, the survey questions have been expanded to address a couple of the key points that have been a source of confusion and really unknown data points around the program, namely around the safety concerns. Those questions will be answered in this year's survey. You could also bring in Game and Fish and get us some unbiased opinions and get some facts on this. Instead of having people that are pro-hunting and anti-hunting, get Game and Fish in here and actually go back to the source of this program, which was a deer management, deer population. And I don't want to sound snarky or sarcastic on this, but the other thing that you can maybe do in the meantime is reach out to one of the 20 cities in Minnesota that have city archery hunts and see what they're doing. See why they don't have a safety concern around the archery hunt going on in their city. The other thing I'll point out, there's 550 acres associated with this program currently. It could be expanded, but I also want to point out that's plenty of space and time, if you look at the season, to find a solution where it would accommodate everybody that wants to use the parks. And lastly, if you're going to do away with the program, I would like to see you guys actually pass a solution as part of the motion. What's going to replace it? Last week, you kind of spitballed some options rather quickly, I would say, as far as what could replace it without any vetting or serious thought, I don't think. So one of the things that I would point out, Iowa City just did away with their sharpshooting program. Iowa City is a town of about half the size of Fargo, with just over half the population. It cost them $250,000 to have a sharpshooter program. They replaced it with archery hunting. I think there's a lot to be learned from our neighbors, not only in Minnesota, but the upper Midwest that have addressed this issue as well. Thank you.
Steve Olson.
Mr. Mayor and the commissioners, my name is Steve Olson. I'm a retired massage therapist and a member of the American Massage Therapy Association. In the late 1980s, my professional association went to work establishing a credible national certification exam. The first step was to confirm that we had a body of knowledge unique to our profession. Turns out that we did, and so we created a certification exam that meets the highest level of accreditation. We are a profession. When the 9/11 crashes happened, the association had massage emergency response teams at all 3 sites within days. They served the frontline responders by providing respite care. They dozed on our tables and massage chairs. They cried. They even smiled. They returned to their tasks a bit more refreshed. They thanked the professionals. Massage therapists served with the U.S. Olympic medical teams. Massage therapists have been brought into hospital settings and are team members in a variety of healthcare practices. We serve society. Massage therapists were not invited to participate in the early shaping of the massage ordinance that you're going to consider tonight. I responded to the ordinance with shock. The steering committee treated me as an adversary and used tactics of coercion, pandering, and intimidation. The committee said they were helping our profession. With friends like this, who needs enemies? The ordinance you are considering casts massage therapy in a negative light. The profession is regulated by state licensing and deserves respect. The North Dakota Board of Massage Therapy treats massage therapists as professionals. Your ordinance reduces professionals' status to that of a person who does massage. I practiced massage therapy. In my practice, I assessed, evaluated, and treated. I reject your plan for the massage therapy business establishment license, and I ask that you vote against it. Thank you for hearing me.
Keith Coates.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and everybody who's come here tonight. This is a very complex issue that I'm glad is finally being brought to light tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of somebody who's been practicing massage for 5 years in the city of Fargo. I'm a proud employee of Massage Envy. I bring that up because there's massage envies in most urban areas of the country. This issue goes beyond Fargo and the massage world. When any new massage therapist comes into the field, we hear all the horrible jokes, happy endings, all sorts of gross sexual comments. Every single massage therapist has heard them all. These unlicensed parlors are the reason why those jokes exist. They have been around for far too long. And as someone who's seen the legit massage world grow, it's amazing to me that these parlors still exist. And they have existed for so long because the North Dakota State Massage Board doesn't have the power to deal with them. In the last meeting, Public Health Grant Larson said that the North Dakota Board of Massage only expects about 10% of licensed individuals per year. And that does not count unlicensed individuals or establishments. So that means any single person in this room can say they're a massage therapist and can open up their own massage establishment. Now, I don't even know where to begin how big of a loophole that is and how exploitable that is. But this ordinance, I believe tonight, we can solve it. We can solve it. The state board from the big government in Bismarck is saying they can't do it. They don't have the resource to do it. They just can't, flat out cannot do it. And you're having somebody like Grant's team of public health saying, we can here in Fargo. This is a Fargo issue. Now, this is a bigger national issue, of course, but we can solve this right here in Fargo. And like the person that was talking virtually of how much exploitation there is of the specific Asian American population that comes with exploitation, sexual exploitation in the massage world, I think this ordinance is a great community approach and it will do a lot of good going forward. Thank you.
Linda Boyd.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I too am here to support the massage ordinance, as are several folks here in the room, I believe. Yes, thank you so much for being here. As you well know, the state statute, state law addresses massage therapy in two areas: licensing of individuals, which, as Mr. Olson said, is very professional and treats individual massage therapists licensed as the professionals that they are. But there's a gap, and that's why this ordinance is coming forward. The state statute also says, in no vague terms, all establishments offering massage shall be inspected. But the state board has said repeatedly that they don't consider that their purview and they don't have the capacity. As a North Dakota citizen, as a former member of this body, I'm familiar with many ways in which the city can often have the capacity to do inspections or services on behalf of the state and enter into an agreement that aligns with state statute. So this is absolutely an opportunity to close that gap so that any establishment offering massage is issued a license by the city and is inspected by the city, so that no longer can an establishment hang out a shingle and offer massage with unlicensed individuals. It's working in Moorhead, and folks in West Fargo have expressed interest in model ordinance once Fargo's passes, and we're hoping to take this statewide and let this serve as a model for communities throughout our state. It's in the interest of public safety and public health. I thank you for your consideration of this ordinance and urge you to pass it. Thank you.
Valerie Hansen.
Mayor Mahoney, esteemed commissioners, thanks for the opportunity to allow me to voice my opposition to the massage therapy ordinance. I've been a massage therapist almost 20 years. I'm appalled by the steering committee's proposal to license and inspect a profession about which they know very little. I would like to be inspected and judged by professionals in my area of expertise. I'm not just a massager, masseuse, all of those things that make us cringe. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I'm a professional. I'm a small business owner. I'm proud to be all of those things. I really want to have the steering committee consider us as small business people, as proud business owners. We do not just massage. We do the same thing as a chiropractor, a doctor, any other professional would do. We assess, we evaluate, and we treat. Also, like the doctors, nurses, teachers, all of those people, we have continuing education to keep our skills up to date, to keep our ethics up to date, and to remind us how much this is actually meaning to us. If the committee wants to regulate massage therapy, it seems that they seem to fail to see us as professionals. And that saddens me. It irritates the heck out of me. Our professionals, our owners, they successfully monitor our ranks to ensure that our profession is not damaged by shoddy work, illegal activities, or rumor. I encourage you to drop the proposed massage therapy ordinance. Thank you.
Richard Thomas.
I'm Richard Thomas, Fargo resident. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak about the Wildlife Management Program and park safety. I represent myself and several hundred park users who signed the petition urging you to end the hunting in the occupied Fargo River and Nature Parks 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, you used North Dakota common sense and voted to end the program, and we thank you. I wanted to dispel some of the statements I've heard. This has always been about park users being and feeling safe while they enjoy our parks. Our nature parks are heavily used today, and park users have the right to feel safe and welcome while enjoying the nature parks. We are not against hunters. We are not against hunting. We are simply against hunting in the occupied Fargo parks. I'm a hunter myself. I've hunted in North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, Washington State, but I don't believe it's proper to hunt in occupied parks. Fargo is a Midwest city on a river, and we can expect to see deer near the river. We have coexisted with wildlife for over 100 years, and we can continue to do that in the future. If at some point in the future there would be a problem with an overpopulation of deer in the city of Fargo could always work with Game and Fish to issue more permits north of the city, south of the city, or in Minnesota to alleviate this problem, just not in our city parks. Deer are mobile. They have a large range. If you thin the deer out on north or south of the city, that will thin the deer out in the city itself. Again, I want to thank you for your consideration of the feelings of the hundreds of park users who have asked you to end this program, and we ask that you move forward in rescinding the wildlife management program. As another person commented tonight, I don't feel it would make any sense to put this decision off any longer. The police chief has looked into this. He has recommended this summer, and again just 2 weeks ago, that we end the program. He has talked to Fish and Game, he's talked to the park board, and he's come to the decision that it's time to eliminate the program, and myself and the hundreds of people who signed the petition agree with that. Thank you very much.
Cameron Bung.
Hello, My name is Cameron Booing. I've been a massage therapist here in Fargo for about 3 years now. So when I was just getting into massage therapy, I heard like all the jokes, like happy endings, stuff like that. And it's like, for a while, it almost kind of like deterred me from becoming a massage therapist. And then once I became one, I kind of felt like there was something we could do, but it's like we just don't have the means right now. And another thing with that is like me taking in all my clients, I hear stories. And I have people come in and they're like very standoffish, and I try and like comfort them the best that I can. And I find out it's like they've been to one of these places by accident because, you know, like somebody's first massage, oh, where am I supposed to go? Look up a place online, find a place. They go in there. I had one lady say when she was getting undressed and laid face down, her masseuse, I guess, came in and she was wearing like knee-high stilettos and like G-string and leather bra. And it's like, what am I supposed to say to that? Like, I'm sorry you had that. I wish I could do something about it. And it's like, all she could do is just run out embarrassed and like know where to turn to. And not only with that, I have people come in that get hurt from people practicing without a license. Not so much the sexual side of things, but people claiming that they're massage therapists and advertising their business. And it's like, oh, I can fix that back issue for you. And then they end up hurting them. And then there's no way for them to pursue that person because it's like, oh, I can come to your house and give you a massage, something like that. And then it kind of ruins our reputation because like we want to try and help people, but these people who aren't even massage therapists are claiming they are and are running around just kind of ruining our name. And so I just wanted to come up here tonight and say that I support the ordinance being put in place. And that is all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the resident comments. We go 37, public input opportunity. Public hearings, Maple Valley 5th Edition, 6050 36th Street South. Approval recommended by Planning Commission. Zoning change from limited commercial to limited commercial with conditional overlay. First reading of the rezoned ordinance and a plat of the Maple Valley 5th Edition. Donald Crest to explain.
Good evening, Commissioners. Donald Kress of the Department of Planning and Development. I'll be presenting the next two items. These items include ordinances prepared by the City Attorney's Office, which are included in your packet. Item number 37A is the Maple Valley 5th Edition, which is a zone change in minor subdivision. It is located here, as the mayor stated, 6050 36th Street South, 60th Avenue, 36th Street, I-29. This is currently a single large lot. The property looks like this as of this morning. Here we're standing on the south end of the lot, looking northeastward. This is the undeveloped portion of that lot. Here we're standing at the other end. This is 60th Avenue here, looking at the existing two apartment buildings that do have some commercial space as part of the development there. I don't believe those spaces are currently leased, but they are there. As you look at the undeveloped area, these are twin homes that face 35th Street South. These are the backs of twin homes. The plat here proposes to divide the existing large lot into a lot that will accommodate the existing residences and then the undeveloped portion of the lot here. The entire lot is currently zoned LC, limited commercial. It will remain LC, but the undeveloped portion, that would be lot 2 here, will also have an additional conditional overlay on it, which adds some additional regulations there. It regulates signs, prohibits certain land uses, and provides design standards for the development of the site. These conditional overlays, you commissioners have seen many of these before, is appropriate for this site, which is adjacent to residential use on 2 sides, and the conditional overlay will help mitigate the intensity of the development. The project representative, Jeremy Horst of Core Property Group, is with us this evening and may wish to address the commission. Planning Commission's recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. We did receive and respond to one inquiry about this project. There was no opposition expressed by that caller. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in regard to this rezoning? Is there anyone who wishes to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
To approve.
Commissioner Preston, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Pipcorn. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston. Aye. Pipcorn.
Aye.
Gary.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes. Number 2, Fayland Industrial, first edition, approval recommended by Planning Commission, zoning change from a general industrial to limited industrial, and the first reading of the rezoning ordinance. Donald Crest as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Fayland Industrial First Edition Zone Change Project is located here on the corner of 12th Avenue North and 45th Street North. The city's landfill is across the street here. This is the project site as you see a few weeks ago before the snow started falling. It looks about the same today, still an undeveloped property. Property is currently zoned GI, General Industrial, as is this whole block here between 45th and 46th. Across the street, it's zoned Limited Industrial. The applicant proposes to change the zoning of this property, which has never been developed, apparently, from the General Industrial to the Limited Industrial. The difference would be that the limited industrial offers a few more uses than are available in the GI zone. The GI is intended really just for heavy industrial, and the LI offers a little more flexibility in that. And again, as you see, it is adjacent to LI zoning across the street. The applicant, Nate Volmuth of Goldmark, was not able to be with us here tonight. He called me this afternoon and said he was not going to be able to make it here this afternoon. The Planning Commission's recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. We did also on this one receive one inquiry this afternoon from the adjacent property owner, just wondering what the change was about, and we answered the question to their satisfaction. So there was no opposition there. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this rezoning? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak? If not, I close public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Preston Pipcorn. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston. Aye. Pipcorn.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioners.
Donald. Application, and Steve, you'll have to explain what a VWB, alcoholic beverage license, is for the seller 624, doing business as seller 624, the venue on Main to be located at 624 Main Avenue, Suite 1. Steve?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The VWB is that liquor license that we created just a couple of months ago. It will allow the license holder to hold wine educational events, and it will also be a venue location where they can rent out just the location itself and have a bridal shower or a wedding party or something like that. So we have gone through the background check. This has gone to Liquor Control, and it does come to you with a 5-0 vote from Liquor Control. There were some issues with one of the partners in the background check, and he spoke to Liquor Control and was able to explain what had happened in his past and how he has changed things going forward.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak regarding this alcohol license? Is there anyone wishing to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Strand, Pipcorn. Any discussion?
Can I just add real quick?
Mr.
So the
Pipcorn.
gentleman that spoke, I would encourage people to go back and watch our liquor control meeting because it was very emotional. He had talked about he had done some things a long time ago and had changed his life around. And the cool thing he talked about, he was going to have his daughter come with him. She wasn't able to because she had school, but to show her that your actions can stick with you. And so it was very, and actually we just talked about addiction and all those kinds of things with our executive committee session. It was very emotional. So I would encourage people because he gave a very influential testimonial. I don't know if you would agree with that, Steve, but it was really, it was great. And how he's turned his life around. And so I think, I don't know if, I don't think he's here today, but it was a great thing. And so and we complimented him, and I will tonight too, because I think it was a great thing. It just goes to show you, you can turn your life around, and that's what he did. So I'm sorry for rambling on, but it was a very good thing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's good to hear. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand.
Yes.
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Preston. Aye. Gary.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item D, proposed changes in passenger fare structure for the MAT bus fixed routes and the MAT paratransit service. Julie Bowman's not going to explain.
Jordan Smith, Transit Department here, City of Fargo. So good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here tonight to hold a required public hearing for our fare structure changes as outlined in my submittal. The detailed fare structure changes are in that submittal, but I'll just give a brief overview of the four things that we're looking to change. Looking at implementing a new fare structure that utilizes an account-based fare system, which would include mobile ticketing and pay-as-you-go with fare capping. Converting our promotional college semester pass to a permanent status. The price would change from $45 to $60, and it would be a 120-day period pass. Currently, it is tied to certain dates that correspond with the school semesters. That would no longer be the case. It would just be a rolling 120 days, valid from any point to any time. Currently, we have a downtown pass that we sell for $22.50. We'd like to expand that program outside of just downtown and rename that the Business Pass, and we could offer it to any businesses that would like to purchase transportation for their employees. The price change on that would be $27. It'd be the same fare as our discount. And then establish a new general public fare on MAT Paratransit for Sunday service of $25. This would only be for the general public. Our ADA eligible paratransit rides would still be $3 for those riders. I'll add, because this is we are a joint system with City of Moorhead. City of Moorhead had their public hearing last week at the council meeting, and it was passed there to approve the fare structure change. And then my submittal also included a document that had comments and questions that we'd received. I also distributed an updated document that we received 3 additional comments from last Thursday's deadline up till today. So happy to take any comments or answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Gary.
The paratransit went from what on Sunday to $25?
So currently we don't have anything. That proposed change was actually brought to us by the state of Minnesota. Since we do not offer fixed route service on Sunday, they felt that we should offer some type of service to the general public. And then because we don't offer fixed route, we are able to set what we feel like is a fair rate for that. And so we decided to institute that $25 fare for the general public.
In general, the paratransit doesn't fund itself with fees. So
Correct.
Is this going to fund itself with fees?
Our current our current cost per ride for paratransit is $34. So that $25 does not quite cover the cost of one ride.
So you're going to ask for an increase in your budget?
No. Currently, we don't ever get requests for general public rides. So no, we do not have an increase request in our budget for that.
I guess I'm confused then. It's not going to cover the cost. It's going to be $30, let's say, a ride. We're going to charge $25. You're going to offer this service, so how are you going to fund it? Because it's not going to cover itself.
Sure.
So how will you fund it?
So what we'll probably end up doing is our paratransit services are usually full on Sunday, which meaning we have 2 vehicles out there on Sunday, and those rides are usually taken up by ADA eligible riders. We can prioritize those rides, which we will continue to do, and so priority will be given to those ADA eligible rides. So the chances of there being an open available spot for the general public is probably pretty slim.
It's public hearing, so I have to finish that first. Is there anybody public who wishes to speak to the fare change? Anybody public want to speak? If not, then I'll close the public hearing and any other commissioner question or discussion. Commissioner Pepcorn.
I have a question about the TAP Ride program. Can you summarize, we don't get to see you very often. Can you summarize how that is going? Would you say it's successful? Obviously, it's been challenging with the last 2 years, but can you give us a brief summary on it? Thank you.
I will do my best. Yes, so TAP Ride has been going okay. Obviously we've lost a lot of ridership during the pandemic. It's come back a little bit. We did talk to a gentleman last week at our informational meeting for actually our fare changes that uses the service every day to get to and from work, so it's beneficial. Our ridership, it's down from what it was obviously a year and a half ago, but still going well, and I think people, they utilize it, and it's something that's a benefit. So,
thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. There's one thing I'd like to say about these fare increases, and frankly, I wish we didn't charge anything. I wish we had free transit for all of our people all the time, every day, all year long, but that's my pie in the sky utopian views. We have to cover our costs, but I think that'd be a great place to get to.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Strand.
Yes.
Preston. Aye. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Gary.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. Number 38, sorry, discussion regarding City of Fargo temporary COVID-19 mask policy for employees. You have the item in your packet. We had a temporary employment policy requiring all employees to wear a mask. The change to this would be just the areas in which we have to have masks as library, public health, and transit departments. But in all other areas, as of December 1st, we would drop the mask requirement. I open it for discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Preston.
just wondering where this came from. I have no trouble with it. Usually the Board of Health is the place where this discussion would happen. Did it come up through staff, or where did it come from?
This actually, it really came from me. I did have a discussion with Desi. It wasn't to go, and she didn't really, would like to get everybody vaccinated. But it's actually in January, we'll change the policy for the schools. It's felt that the children can get their vaccine over November and December, and that's what the goal will be, to get people who should be vaccinated. It's been a concern just of listening to employees in the city of Fargo, of the ability for people to get vaccinated, the ability for people to get the things done which they need to get done, and having more than enough time to do that I'm bringing it up for discussion personally, basically as mayor, to have a discussion with the commission. But it's just everybody has an opportunity to get vaccinated. We have treatment policies that we can do. In our wastewater, our counts are coming down, and we've kind of been running at a steady 6-7% 14-day average. And we don't seem to bounce off of that. It's been very hard to bounce off of that. John Strand, who's been in Florida, has had the delta usually drops precipitously and goes to a lower number. We just have not seen that. And this is just, if you want to wear a mask in the workplace, you may well do that. But just stating that at this point, after December 1st, we would just have the 3 departments that it's required, and the rest of the time it would be up to the employee or commissioner. If they wanted somebody that visited, they would wear a mask, but it would not be required.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just do a
Go
follow-up
ahead.
question. Can you give a little background as to why you came up with those 3 departments?
Well, public health wears it because they're exposed to COVID at all times. Transit is because of federal mandate that they have to wear masks. And library is a choice of the library staff that they would like to do that.
Okay.
Commissioner Strand. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Gary.
Yeah, and just to that point, I was going to say, can we allow the head of each department to decide? So if the library wants to, then allow them to do that. So I'm okay with this. So let's just remove the library. If they want to do that, they can. I'm fine with any director to mandate the water plant, the sewer plant, whatever. If they want to mandate that in their buildings, that's fine with me. But I say I'm fine with this. Let's remove the library and just let them decide. So we don't have to come back and change our whole policy because they want to change the library.
Mike Redinger, isn't that the library's request?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I understand that's the library's request, but to Commissioner Garrick's point, that would be another way that you could get at the issue.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Commissioner Preston.
So were follow-up questions or survey of any sorts done with any of the other department heads? I know that the original request to go to masks was because employees weren't feeling safe. So again, I guess I'm supporting Commissioner Garrick's comment here that any department head who would want their employees masks based on whatever is going on inside their department should be free to do so. Is that right?
I can just answer the question about survey work. Staff has not performed any additional survey work around this topic, so.
But what you're asking is, could a department head, as you state, still require it? It would just have to be clearly stated in their department that's a requirement.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to amend it to say that, I have no problem with that, so.
Okay, so how would I amend that? I would approve this document, changing the third bullet point to say any department head can require masks under their jurisdiction, but striking the rest of that.
And Eric Johnson, that's fine as far as policy for our employees that we separate it out that way. Is there any objection to that? Or Bruce, is that all right?
Yeah, legally, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
You get a little concerned, I guess, just about disparate situations within City Hall, but we could deal with those as they arise, I imagine.
Okay. Do I have a motion or second to your
I'll second
amendment?
it.
Second. Any further discussion, Mr. Strand?
Thank you, and I don't know if I see Desi here or not, but what's the status of, how worried should we be about this new South African variant that's beginning to surface? I'd hate to have us 2 weeks from now go, gosh darn it, we stepped too soon to eliminate this mitigation effort when that explodes in our face. Desi, do you have any sense on how much we should be cautious in changes right now with that coming our way?
Well, of course, my opinion is we should still be cautious anyway. We still have a pretty high positivity rate. As far as the new variant, they haven't found that in the US yet, but it is certainly becoming more evident, in South Africa and in different countries there. It has 32 different mutations kind of on its spike protein. If you compare that to Delta, Delta has 9. So this is a much more complex variant if it does come here. And it also seems very transmissible, and they're not quite sure how it will interface with the vaccine. So the message for us right now really is still like everybody should be getting vaccinated. The other data point that we had heard is that there are 20 million people that are eligible for boosters right now who have not gotten them. So those statistics are all very concerning to us. We just need people to, get fully vaccinated, get boosted, get the kids done. Then you can at least feel like you have a little bit of wall of, kind of protection built up. But, like I said, at this point, they're still learning a lot about the variant, and we will keep you updated as we know more. But, it's just not a time to really let down our guard either. I know people are done with this pandemic psychologically, but we're just not done. And if I know masking is a hot topic and people don't want to do it, well, if they're not going to do it, then do everything else to protect yourself. So the vaccines, knowing who you're kind of hanging out with, if they're vaccinated, all of those things.
Mr. Strand.
Thank you, Desi. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. If you were a city commissioner or a mayor, would you want this discussion just delayed a few weeks, or would you be comfortable saying, okay, we can lift the mandate now?
I think because the reality is no one's doing this anyway in the community. And so it's kind of, I don't know how valuable it is to come to one city building and do it and then don't go anywhere else and do it. I mean, we will do it at public health because it's what, that's what we believe and want to do. And we have to do it on the healthcare side because that's still a healthcare requirement. And so, and we kind of stand aligned with the school because we've advised the schools on, our thoughts on how they should go forward too. And we want to stay in alignment with that as well. So, there again, I think I just hope that people, if they want to wear a mask, will be comfortable wearing a mask and won't be ridiculed for wearing a mask. But if, you know, we see this everywhere, it's happening. People are just not wearing them. So I don't necessarily think the policy is going to change a whole lot with that. You know, if people, like I said, if we get out and get everybody vaccinated, I would feel a lot better about it.
That was a really interesting answer, Desi. Thank you for parlaying that in such a manner. I might call you an attorney at some time, but. So we have to vote on the amendment. Any other discussion? A roll call vote on the amendment.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Preston? Aye. Pepcorn?
No.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes. Now the main motion we would go to, otherwise the amendment would be as it's drafted with the amendment. And I think I have to ask for a motion for that as well, because we didn't have a motion for it.
Mr. Chairman, I think it was all in one motion.
Oh, the amendment and it?
Yep. Mhm.
Oh, okay.
I think we're good.
Eric, are we okay?
As I recall, Commissioner Gehrig's motion was the motion.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll move on. Thank you. Thank you, Desi. When John comes back from vacation, he always asks difficult questions, so it's good that she could answer that. I think we will go on now to our receive and file the 2022 Capital Improvement Plan and the 2023 Federal Aid and 2023 Utility Replacement and Street Construction Projects. Brenda Derrick to explain, and Tom Nachmus as well. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tom and I are happy to be here to go through our 2022 CIP with you tonight.
With that, I'll kick it off. Just brief summary of what we're going to discuss tonight. Talk a little bit about our network size and condition for both pavement and underground utilities. Discuss proposed 2022 projects, the history of project development, the timeline associated with that, our selection or our process for selecting projects, and then touch on the 2023 utility replacement street recon projects that we are proposing. So our pavement network, you know, the overall size of our network is about 1,400 lane miles, which is like driving I-94 across North Dakota 4 times. So we have a lot of pavement that we have to manage, and that network keeps growing as our city grows. So from 2006 to 2021, we increased about 400 lane miles, which is about a 39% increase. Our overall network is about 55% asphalt, 45% concrete, and then in the graph on the bottom right, you just kind of see how many lane miles get added typically over those years. So we average probably right around 20 to 25, but there are years that we kind of peak closer to that 40 to 45. So then how do we rate our pavement? So we use a pavement condition index, and every 4 years we do a survey that goes around, images every street in the city of Fargo, and gives us great analytical data to gauge how our system is doing. So we did that in 2021, and those results will be available soon, and we'll be back in front of City Commission when we have that data. But in the meantime, between those surveys, what we do is we enter in a lot of information into a pavement management software, and that helps us estimate how we're doing. So last year at this time in 2020, we estimated that network to be at a 82.48. And so we've seen it slip over the last year to an 81.12. But really, you know, when we have that updated survey data, we'll bring that back to you, and that really gives us the best gauge of where we're doing. So then we also want to talk about how our different pavements rate throughout the city. So starting with asphalt pavement, you can kind of see where it falls. So you see it peaks at that 45.31% in the satisfactory condition. That means that 45% of our asphalt pavement network would be classified as satisfactory, which is a pavement condition between 71 and 85. I'm trying not to get too technical. But overall, it's pretty good for the asphalt pavement. Next one, we see our composite, and our composite pavement is a concrete pavement with asphalt over the top. And the reason you kind of see this slide down to a lesser condition is because those are typically pretty old roads, and we've usually done an asphalt overlay on it just to really buy ourselves time. And then we have the overall concrete network. And you can see this one really peaks over in that good condition of almost 75% of that network. And again, the reason there is that most of that network is collectors and arterials that we strive very hard to keep that at a good rating. And then this is the total network, this green bar. So you can really see that the majority of our pavement lives in that fair, satisfactory, and good range. But there are some that fall into that failed, serious, or very poor. And really, those are the types of conditions, 40 PCI score of 40 or less, where the road is really so poor that it has to be reconstructed. We can no longer do any pavement preservation to really extend the life. The thing that needs to be done is reconstruction. So about 4.09% of our total network, or about 58 lane miles, falls into that category. So in our underground utility network, again, somewhat similar to pavement, but about 1,500 miles of utility mains. And so from about 2006 to 21, increased by 427 miles. And then that's pretty equally distributed between storm, sewer, sanitary, and water. So add those up and you get to that about 1,500 miles.
Excuse me, Mayor, if I could just ask you a question before you go too far down this path. Which is more environmentally friendly, concrete or pavement?
You're asking concrete or asphalt pavement?
Or asphalt, yeah. Which is better for the environment in the bigger picture?
I don't know that I know that answer. I would say both are 100% recyclable and can be used, reutilized in future pavements or aggregate bases. I don't know that answer specifically, though.
Someday I'd like to learn that.
Sure.
You know, people talk about a concrete shortage around the world, and I just don't know the implications to us locally.
I'll look into that.
Thank you.
And then again, bottom right, just a graph of the number of miles installed per year. And again, this falls very closely to that, to the roadway network. So then how do we condition or rate our underground utilities? So this is one method. This is just an example of some great work that our Public Works Department has done. So this is the West Side Interceptor, kind of follows the path of 42nd Street up to 19th Avenue North and kind of snakes its way to the treatment facility. And you can kind of see, yellow, orange, and red are bad. And those are areas that we need to be addressing. And it was kind of unique looking into this, working with Jim Hassauer on a grant that he's putting together, that we've spent about $700,000 in emergency repairs since 2016 on this West Side Interceptor alone. And it's just a good idea of showing an example of how we track some of these types of things. Another example would be our water main breaks. So since 2016, we've had 229 water main breaks, and you can see how they're distributed. A lot of them are in the downtown area. These typically happen on cast iron pipe or sometimes asbestos cement pipe. And then, the cost to Public Works to go out and fix these is just short of about $1 million. Believe it or not, these breaks are down significantly compared to where they were, 10, 15 years ago. And we feel that we are at a fairly manageable number currently.
Tom, I'm assuming those are the city's costs?
Correct.
Because the homeowners, the property owners also incur their costs, don't they? Pretty substantially?
Correct. So to talk about what we're proposing, we also want to talk about the history of our capital improvement plan as well. And I'm going to kind of step through this table a little bit and just want to bring your attention to a few things. So we have a few categories here that have an asterisk in front of them. And we always kind of struggle with how to name it. We named it locally funded and programmed. And the reason why we called it that, federal aid projects, I think you guys are familiar with the process that we go through to apply for those. If we get funded, then we have to match with local funds. Flood control, we're working through that stuff. Hopefully there will be a day somewhat soon where we'll be done with those. And then new development and alley projects, though, those are developer or landowner or property owner requested. And so we kind of follow some of those requests. Whereas the ones that with the asterisk, the utility replacement, street recon, pavement preservation, storm sewer, traffic and street light, sidewalks and miscellaneous, those are the ones we are really working internally with other departments to figure out where do we prioritize, where do we program dollars. And so that bottom line is really where you see a good year-to-year comparison of everything we do. So with all that, 2017, 2018, that was our 50-50 policy. And as you guys know, we went through a change. In 2019, we reverted back to what has typically been called the 70-30 policy. And then there was a decision made to not do any utility replacement or street recon projects. So you see that total, locally funded and programmed really fell that year. Then we went to 2020 and we had to reduce our capital improvement plan because of the COVID pandemic. And we did not get any prairie dog funding that year. And so that changed our our planned CIP. Then we went into 2021 this year. And it went a little bit higher. We did have $2.5 million of prairie dog funds that we were able to leverage into our CIP. And then what we're proposing in 2022. And you can see that's a little bit bigger. We are not anticipating any prairie dog funds, but we're relying heavily on our city funds. Now this next slide, that bottom bar is replicated here again, just for your reference. I just want to kind of show you the distribution of how we funded those projects over the years. So as we know, back in 2017 and 18, there was a pretty high reliance on special assessments. And then as we've transitioned in those policies, those city funds have had to play a greater role. And then this is just a distribution by percentage. So again, we knew that 2017, 2018 policy, we were closer to that 50 to 60% many times in special assessments. And then we've seen that really change here with that newer policy. We just want to highlight that a little bit. So that's kind of the background. Now we'll talk a little bit about specific projects. So first category, we'll talk about federal aid projects. So these ones are typically come out of the long range transportation plan. The most recent plan, just want to highlight the plan goals. So again, safety and security, travel efficiency, reliability, walking and biking, transit access, maintenance of our existing infrastructure, environmental sustainability, economic development and transportation decisions, and then emergency trends in transportation. There are a lot of different buckets of money that are available when it comes to federal aid. We really focus probably more so on these ones on the left. Those are typically most available to us. So urban road funds, we can use those on any arterial or collector in the city of Fargo. Urban regional highway, that's US Highway 10 and 81. And then we certainly go after transportation alternatives for shared use paths and safe routes to school. And then we also rely heavily on the urban grant program for work downtown. For 2022, the one project that we have programmed is 32nd Avenue South from 32nd Street to 22nd Street. And we've certainly talked to you guys a little bit about that. You're familiar with that one. And I just want to highlight, what is currently programmed. We're currently programmed through 2025. You guys recently heard the request that we made for 2026. And then just want to highlight these projects. So 52nd Avenue, 2nd Street, Main Avenue, and 32nd. We're really kind of I think we're kicking off this week, 2nd Street pedestrian bridge, just kicked off a couple of weeks ago on Main Avenue. And for all these projects, we will be back in front of you multiple times, kind of keeping you up to date where we're at and bringing you along for the ride on where we are with our decision making. Our utility replacement and street recon projects, 3 of them proposed this year. Here next week, 7th Avenue will bid. 3rd Avenue and 21st Street, those projects you actually just approved tonight on the consent agenda. And so our schedule for our project development is ahead of where we have been in the past, and Brenda will touch on that a little bit later. Next category, flood protection projects. These are necessary for the proposed in-town 100-year flood elevations with the diversion, that 37-foot level that we talked about. And then they're constructed upon completion necessary property and easement acquisitions and paid for by flood sales tax. So looking at doing a project in the Woodcrest neighborhood, hopefully be able to acquire some more properties needed for future projects and do some demolition. And then a couple projects to address existing storm lift station improvements that need to be made to go along with the diversion project. And then looking at doing a slope stabilization just north of 52nd Avenue, east of University Drive, along the river there. Pavement preservation, I'm always excited to talk about this. You guys have seen these slides many times already. But pavement preservation, you know, it's our method of implementing just a series of low-cost maintenance projects to extend the life of the project. So it's the most cost-effective way we can do it, and it helps meet the needs of our citizens. So no pavement will last forever, but with these types of applications, we can extend the pavement and end up saving money in the long run. So the first 40% of pavement life, it drops about 15% in quality, but then the next 15% of the pavement life, it drops by about 40%. So we really want to focus on when we spend those dollars because we get the most return for our dollars that way. And so ideally, this is where we do. The pavement starts to fall in quality. We do a project, we lift that pavement condition score up. It's going to deteriorate again. We're going to do another project to lift it up. And that's kind of that life cycle of that pavement. So these are the types of projects that we do to maintain and extend those lives. So asphalt crack seal, a concrete spot repair, we do citywide. We are planning a corridor concrete rehab on 13th Avenue next year from 28th Street to 38th Street. So that'll pick up from where we left off this year. Citywide seal coat project, a street recon on 18th Avenue South and 40th Street South, and then a citywide mill and overlay project.
So our storm sewer utility, that goes towards many different projects. And so it does cover the cost of our storm sewer televising, which is performed by Public Works. And this really identifies the area that are in need of rehabilitation. And then that turns into our rehabilitation projects, of which occurs, you know, we can see outfall repairs, minor drain repairs, lift station rehabilitation, reconstruction, and we'll also do some hydraulic modeling with those funds. And so the storm sewer utility projects slated for 2022, you'll see here, we've got some outfall work and then also some repairs and rehabilitation on some of our retention ponds, and then along with some storm sewer rehabilitation. Our traffic and streetlight projects are to keep the existing components running, or sometimes we'll use them to modify them to operate differently. A couple examples are the LED signal heads. They need to be replaced about every 10 years. And then there are new operations that will become available. For example, our flashing yellows that we have been adding to some of the signals. That's a new operation that's now available to us. We also use, these projects are also take care of our traffic signals, any new traffic signals, or any crosswalk devices that are needed throughout the city to help that pedestrian crossing, so our hawk installation. We also manage our railroad quiet zones here. And so our 2022 traffic and streetlight projects, we've got some rehabilitation. We do have a couple of new hawk installations that we'll be putting in adjacent to the Sanford facility on University and the Essentia facility there. We also have a new traffic signal that will be going in Veterans adjacent to the Cheyenne High School. And then we are still working on that railroad quiet zone and acquiring our permitting. This year for our new development projects, we slated them in 3 different categories. So this first area are the new development projects we have coming in 2022 that are within our city limits and just require the extension of our existing infrastructure. And then this next one is, it's within our city limits, but it's extending that infrastructure to service some of the new plating and development requests. So the 45th Street from 52nd to 64th and the 64th Avenue from 45th Street to 38th, that's going to support the new Career Academy down on 64th Avenue. We also have a couple of potential development requests that would require some annexation, and one is north of County Road 20 or 40th Avenue, west of I-29, and then another one northeast of the Amazon site. Our alley paving projects are are 100% requested, so those are produced after we get a request to pave our alleys. So we have one of those this year. Our sidewalk projects, those are the projects that do new end replacement. And so there are areas throughout town that still do not have sidewalk, where we will get the sidewalk installed to make it more pedestrian friendly. And then this is also the time that, as over the year, we'll get complaints on deteriorated sidewalks, and then we'll add those to a project for the following year and add those and then replace those. And so this is the project scheduled for 2022. Our miscellaneous projects include water service lowering and then our public information coordinator. And we use our public information coordinator for some of our larger projects. This would also be earlier today when we had our North Broadway Bridge discussion. This is where we would put the demolition of that project. It is not in there currently, but we would look to add that for the final approval in 2 weeks. So I want to talk a little bit about the history of our project development timeline. So historically, prior to 2020, our project managers that do the design of the projects are also out in the field all summer for the construction. And so historically, what we would have is they would work all summer, come in, and they would design in January. So in 2018, this would be the timeline of what those would look like. They'd come in January, they would design, we would get public notice to the property owners impacted in March to April, and then we'd be starting the construction that season. So there's a very short time frame of communication. So what we did in 2019, we hired consultants to work through the summer and get us a year ahead, so that when our project managers came in that winter, that we were able to bid the projects for 2020 right away in January, and those managers were able to work on the projects for the following year. So now we were able to get communication out to the property owners and give them a longer timeline before we were impacting them with the project. So in our 2021 CIP approval, we also included the 2022 utility replacement and street reconstruction projects. And what this did is it allowed our project managers to come in, design 2022 projects in January. And like Tom had mentioned earlier, we have bid 2 of the 3 projects. So we were able to have our public information meetings this fall. We were able to get their special assessment information out to them at a much longer timeline. And so with this request, you will see a request for our 2023 utility replacement and street reconstruction projects, which allow our staff to work on them in January. We'll get a postcard out to them this spring, letting them know they're coming, and then we'll do another notice in the fall with the special assessment meetings and the special assessment information. So this is just an example of what our postcards look like, and then also the QC code gets them to our fargostreets.com so they can see the information on their project location. Another thing we've been working on in engineering is the collaboration between planning, public works, water treatment, and water reclamation. So historically, we have worked closely with public works, and our prioritization has been based heavily on technical data. So water main breaks, pavement condition index. We always considered other items, but at a smaller degree. So we have been working with planning and public works to update and expand and also formalize our criteria and decision-making process for the evaluation and selection of our projects. And so we're looking at other additional items we're considering as the GO 2030, our core neighborhood plan, and then the Fargo transportation plan that we're currently working on. So we have had a couple of meetings with Public Works and Planning. We've reviewed our 2023 projects. We've discussed the additional criteria that we would like to be considered. And then over this next year, we'll be formalizing our process and adding the new criteria for prioritization of the projects. And so we'll be working on that with Planning and Public Works. And then we hope to incorporate that with our Fargo transportation plan through the next year. So this is a very long list. It's about 87 projects here. But these are all the corridors that we have that are either poor or failing in that category. And so there's about 87 areas here that are kind of within that area, that as we evaluate the different criteria, we'll be looking at these sections and then putting an evaluation on them and having those come up as the selected projects moving forward. And so as you can see, it's a large number, about $137 million worth of work that we do need to look at doing coming up in those categories of classification. And so for 2023, the projects we are proposing are 8th Street North from 7th to 10th Avenue North, 6th Avenue North from 10th to Robert Street, and then 8th Street South from 9th Avenue to 13th Avenue South. With that, we'll take any questions. We aren't asking for any action today. It's a lot of information we want to get to you. If you have any questions, we want to be able to answer them too in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks to ask for the formal approval.
Well, first of all, excellent work. It's really amazing that you've pushed the schedule ahead, so I think the contractors will have a better idea and possibly get a better bid. But the fact that you have now actually elongated the construction period should give us better pricing and better bids. I think your team's done an excellent job. And our smart city guy that was talking at the Main Street Initiative was talking about, why do you ever need city engineers? And you've really proved it tonight with $139 million worth of infrastructure projects that are around for the city. I just want to compliment your team. You did this excellent presentation, but it also makes people aware there's a lot of work that goes in the city to keep the infrastructure that we like and love. So Dave, good job. I think your team's done an excellent job. Commissioner Peckborn.
So, Mr. Chair, just a couple things. First of all, Brenda, you talked about the collaboration, but also with XL Energy, I think that's going to be another thing. You didn't have them written on there, but that's the other thing that I do think we didn't do in the past that I will be to make sure that we collaborate with them. I think that's good. And can you talk about flood control projects? It was just one page on there, but can you talk about how much we have left, the number of buyouts and things like that?
So we have about 4 to 5 buyouts left is
So
where we're at.
That's
4
fantastic.
to 5 or 45?
4 to 5.
So that's just great news. I mean, we're almost, like you talked about, the list is getting shorter and shorter, so that's great. And if anybody has a chance to go down to Oak Grove and see the height of the wall that's right along between the high school and Oak Grove Park, it's amazing. And so we're going to be very happy once that's all done. And I do think this kind of ties in with what we were talking about today at noon with our bridge. This all goes together, and so we want them all to be complementary, and so I think that's a good thing. And obviously, the change that the mayor talked about by having the bids go out, and so the construction starts right away early in the spring, I do think that helps too, as far as getting projects done in a timely manner. I think that was, we were kind of pushing things back because of our own actions. I don't know if that's correct or not, but obviously, thank you for the great work. We have excellent engineering staff. If you look, we have excellent staff across the board. So as bad as the politicians are up in the front, they help us all look good back there. So I want to thank you for everybody there for all your excellent work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Preston.
Yeah, I want to echo, this report was really helpful. Thank you for putting it together. What I was trying to ascertain from it is whether we are keeping up with the maintenance needs. And when I looked at the water main, it looks like we're like, maybe not quite meeting those maintenance needs. And then the pavement or the roads, I think it was 58 lane miles that were really poor. How many lane miles do we have budgeted in a year, and are we keeping up with that?
Again, as I referenced the pavement survey that we did in 2021, and we'll be presenting that hopefully in the next couple of months when we have all that data back. That I feel is the best gauge of how our city is doing, how our pavement network is doing. Because we use a standardized method for doing that. We did one back in 2016, 17, and we can compare that data then, and we can look at our entire network and see, are we keeping pace with where we should be or not? And then we're going to run scenarios based on that of, if we're falling short, what do we have to invest in our network to maintain it where it's at? Or likewise, if it did increase, what could we allow that number to fall down to maintain? And so that's really the best way I feel that we can look at that. Now, as far as the amount of lane miles that we have that need to be replaced, we should always have some that need to be replaced. You would be too aggressive in a maintenance, preservation, and replacement if you didn't have something to replace. And so in that report, we talk about, ideally it should be less than 10%, and we're at 4%, which is pretty good. Okay. And so through some of the research, I kind of looked at some peer cities, and City of Sioux Falls is similar. They're right around that 4% backlog, what we call it, the amount of the network that needs to be replaced. So, and hopefully we'll have some more of those examples too when we come back within a few months to talk about that survey.
I could do one more follow-up. So the water mains, I remember reading it somewhere, but I can't find it right now. The issue of replacing cast iron from the curbs or the street up to the home. I'm assuming that, do we have a sense of how many are carrying or have a lead issue?
Yep, we do. So we, again, working with our water treatment facility and then Public Works, we have a great GIS dashboard that shows every service in town and shows whether the portion is lead from the main to the curb stop or the curb stop to the house. And so we have that quantified. It's probably in the very last section, the miscellaneous section, where it calls out what that total was. But yeah, I think it's right around just over 1,000 services in the city that have some component of lead.
And that is the responsibility of the homeowner, is that correct?
Well, I think homeowners can certainly choose to be proactive and do that. Our water treatment facility also does a great job going around annually and doing testing in many of those homes that do have lead service lines to check those levels. But we are looking at ways in which we could implement additional programs to be more proactive in the replacement of those services.
Commissioner Gregg.
I think I heard you guys say that we're not expecting any prairie dog funds for this CIP. Is there no chance of getting prairie dog funds for this one?
My understanding is that if we were to get some, it would likely be towards the end of 2022, which we would then turn around and use in our 23 and 24 CIP.
Legislative body met, and at one time they were going to replace it. You're right on that, but then they delayed it, and then they're waiting for everything to fill up. So the earliest we might get is 22. Some have said 23 we'll get the full allotment. So, okay. Mr. Pickborn, you had
just to reiterate what Tom talked about, the lead. They monitor those, and if any resident wants to request, they can have their water monitored. But that's continuously checked, and so our water department does that. And so, but if you have any concerns, contact the water department, and they will come out and do that. So that's an ongoing thing, and they're being replaced as quickly as we can.
And the infrastructure funding may have some money for the state of North Dakota to give us grant funding so we can finish those 1,000. So we will look at that seriously. Commissioner Strand.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Preston, for bringing up this question about lead. It's the first question I wanted to ask, but I'm hearing it differently tonight. I had the impression we didn't need much worry about lead. I'm gathering now there is some concern in some instances where we do need to pay attention to it.
So, baby, you know, I know enough just to be dangerous. I know Troy is very, and I don't know if Troy's here today, but I know Troy's very educated in that area. There is some new testing requirements that will be coming down, and I think there is just a desire to try and replace as many of those wet lead lines as we can. So that's coming down through the federal departments, and so they are trying to get more funds out there to help get some of that lead water service replaced.
But Troy would tell you, we have little problem with lead in our water. We don't have that as an issue. It's tested all the time. And it's managing the pH of your water as you run it through the system, John. So maybe what we could ask is next session, just have Troy talk about lead, what the issues are, how many homes we have to look at, and our main lines, what we might want to look at.
Great. I think that's important in the context of the national conversation. We don't want to be a Flint, Michigan, but let's make sure everybody knows we aren't a Flint, Michigan. Here's my biggest takeaway from tonight's presentation, I think. A few years ago, we were just getting inundated with people with concerns of special assessments and the disparity in this unequal treatment or assessments of people. And so we were at 50-50 for a while, we went to 70-30, and now 80-20. We're not hearing from people about special assessments now. And that's really, really critically important to let people know we've heard you, we've addressed your concerns, and we think we're maybe there. And I hope we stay there going forward with that shared approach of 80-20 so that the individual property owners aren't overly burdened with these bigger decisions that are well beyond their own reach. That's just so huge, you know, with this bigger picture tonight of looking back in the past few years. It's just really substantial. And I want to commend your department also for towing the line, for watching every nickel, for stretching it out through time. We've delayed some things. We've affected the timelines, especially with COVID and with other issues. So, but that's just really substantial, that burden on our people isn't what it used to be. And we're still growing and going forward.
Excellent report. Thank you very much. And we always generate more questions, but you guys did a great job, and I like your report. I'll do one more item because I have a bench of attorneys sitting in the room.
Do we want to receive and file that?
Yes. Receive and file?
Move to receive and file.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Gary.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. So I'd just like to do item 40, then we'll take a 5-minute break. Mike, you want to lead it off, please?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'll provide a very brief update, just to refresh the commission on where we've been with the city attorney RFP process. Back on October 4, you authorized an RFP process after considering some other options. We advertised for the period of about a month from October 5 to November 5, utilizing the CAS and North Dakota State Bar Associations, the League of Cities, and other locations that I itemized for you in your communication in the packet. At the submittal deadline, we had one civil proposal and two prosecutorial proposals that were received. And I just want to note, as I did for the Finance Committee, that there were no additional proposals received either late or that were deemed non-responsive. So that was the universe of proposals received. And then later, on November 19th, City Administration conducted a written proposal review as well as conducted in-person interviews. And we provided for some rankings and compiled the scores. Those are all included in your packet. I won't repeat those here this evening. But first want to acknowledge and just to really appreciate the strong proposal put forward by a Circlin Law Firm for both civil and prosecutorial services. This received a unanimous recommendation for approval at the Finance Committee meeting last Monday on the 22nd. I included a report of action that is also in your packet this evening, summarizing the Finance Committee discussion. Our final agreements will be worked out here in the next few weeks. They will be approved by the Finance Committee and then also placed on the City Commission's consent agenda before the year is out. But I also wanted to acknowledge all of the Circlin representatives that are here this evening. Jane Dines, the president of Circland, is here and can certainly introduce her team that she has assembled here this evening, talk about the particulars of the proposals submitted. I've also included the suggested motions following that introduction in your packet that we asked the commission to approve this evening. So I'll leave it at that. Happy to answer any questions before turning it over to Jane. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions of Mike at this time? Nancy Morris.
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, you know me, but it's my pleasure to introduce Jane Dines, who is the president of the Circland Law Firm and who I have the pleasure of hoping to join forces with and represent the city going forward. So Jane Dines is president of Circland Law Firm.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm honored and pleased to be here. This opportunity presented itself when we learned that Mr. Eric Johnson was, well, changing course. Let's put it that way. We're hoping he's going to be around, but just not in the role he currently has. I'd like to tell you why we think our proposal is the one that will meet the city's needs. In addition to high-quality legal representation, we believe that the proposals will offer a smooth transition of city legal and prosecutorial services with a priority on continuity of service, and that our proposals will provide a deeper bench. And I'd just like to say, talking about the bench, I'm going to introduce my bench. Nancy, in our proposal would be, we propose a city attorney. Let's see, Alyssa, can you stand? I'm sure you know Alyssa, but she would stay on. She would become a member of Circland and be an assistant city attorney. Will Wisher, would you stand, Will? He's the current chief prosecutor. He would stay the chief prosecutor, but under our proposal, we're hoping there will be time for him to also do city civil work. And then here are maybe some new faces. Jim Mehring from my office, and Ian McLean of my office. Ian has been working in the city prosecutor's office under a contract with Eric to fill in when they needed people. And then Casey McNary of my office. In our proposals, Ian would become the managing prosecuting attorney, but he would also be assistant city attorney, as would Jim, Casey, and myself. We'd be available if the city has needs beyond what Alyssa and Nancy and Will could meet. And we think that's likely because I think it's going to take 3 people to replace Eric. So we just wanted to have the manpower available. And I wanted to make, that's an important fact. In all of this proposal, we envision that Eric will continue to work under a separate contract with the city to continue to provide the services that he's provided, just on a different basis, and maybe not be as available. But what this does is it helps transfer that wealth of institutional knowledge. It gives us an opportunity to learn from him, and another point towards continuity of service. Like I said, our proposal on the civil side, well, actually on both sides, people in the departments of the city who've been working with Nancy and Alyssa and Will, they'll continue to work with those people. Yes, maybe there'll be some Circland people introduced too, and we can take some of the burden off of Nancy and Alyssa, but we'll just have to wait to see how that plays out, how much we're needed. Also, what it provides, so we have at least 4 of us who have agreed that we will give the city time if it's needed, but it also gives access to people in our firm with expertise in other areas that we can just call on. And these city proposals that we have, both of them we like to think of as a team approach, especially when we talk about the prosecution office. Lots of times I'm told, because I've never worked there, but through this process I've learned a lot. The prosecutor, might be scheduled in 2 different courts at the same time. So then they need backups. Under our proposal, we're going to have not only Will, but Alyssa, Ian, and even Nancy, if necessary, be backups. So there should never be, not that there ever was, but we should be able to have a schedule in place and not have to worry at all about any type of missed hearing. Just a couple more things. We based our proposals on what we understood was the model that was developed between the city and Eric Johnson. Basically, we'll record all our time. And if we don't, if we have a number in there as a proposed, this is what we think we need, if we don't actually do that work, the city doesn't pay for the time. So it's we bill it, and you only pay for what we billed when we worked on your behalf. Well, I think that's it. I'm very encouraged by the recommendation of the Finance Committee. We hope for a good result tonight because we really are excited to begin working for the city. Thank you for your time.
It's always great to hear people want to work for the city. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Strand?
Thank you. It's great to have such capable people working and assisting the city. I'll just plant this question for the future. It's not so much for now, but I expect and hope on a ongoing regular basis we'll always contrast and compare the options of whether we at some point choose to develop our own legal department or contract it out. But I'm not uncomfortable with where we are, but I think that's a good topic to vet in the future.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Gary?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Eric Johnson, do you want any onward words to encourage them to how enjoyable it is working with the commissioners and the mayor, and you just love this job, or?
It's just a joy.
We'll take a 5-minute break, thanks. We'll call the meeting back to order. If I can find Commissioner Preston. I think she's somewhere out here. Okay, she's walking to her space. Item 41, recommendation to approve the massage therapy establishment requirements as presented in the first reading of the ordinance related to massage therapy establishments. Grant Larson I have, and Alyssa Farrell to talk.
Alyssa will come up and support any legal questions. 2 weeks ago, I did present the facts to you, and tonight we're just going to come here and basically answer questions if the commission and the commissioners have any. But just want to state some points for the record that was already pointed out tonight. But there is a clear gap and void between the board and for individuals and establishments. I presented our proposed program to the board on May 10th, and they came out and they publicly put on their website that that's exactly what they're doing. Separate, they do the individuals and not the establishments. The other one that's kind of brought up is, you know, we're going to do massage inspections, and environmental health practitioners that work in my division will do that if this does pass. We were tasked with this in the steering committee because we also inspect body art establishments, and we're not body art experts at all. What we're going in there is checking sanitation requirements, and we are experts at that. So that's what we're trying to do. That's why we got kind of tasked with spearheading this, because they are similar. We're not experts in either field, but we can conduct those routine and sanitary inspections. Also about unannounced inspections. Currently their board has the ability and policy to do that. Ours would also be similar, or we propose unannounced inspections. But I want to emphasize that we'll never invade or impose on during a procedure in a private procedure or a client's space or privacy. That will never happen. Mr. Jerry Wendell, he couldn't be here tonight. He's got 22 years of experience in the city of Fargo, and he just wants to point out that he's never been inspected. He's never had any oversight by the board. I know you guys get a lot of emails. I did push one out to you that I got from Dan Molly, city manager, or city of Moorhead manager this afternoon. Apologize, but he did emphasize in an email that their program that was established and implemented in 2019 is working effectively in order to ensure public safety and enforce sanitary requirements. I also looked up in their program, and they charge $250 for initial fee, because this program, if it was implemented, it'd take a lot of work up front. So they charge $250 for their initial just to get licensed, and then an annual fee after that of $125. I know the fee has come up, so I'm just wanting to give you that for contrast. And last, I want to acknowledge everybody that's come here from the massage therapy industry, because they are very passionate, and I applaud you on your involvement and acknowledge that. And I just want to say that, we've provided 6 months of open and transparent communication with the industry in order to develop and input the recommended program that is before you tonight. So that's all I have tonight. If you have any questions of me about the requirements, or Alyssa's here if you want to have any for the legal parameters with the ordinance, we're here to answer your questions. Thank you.
Discussion. Any questions, Grant, at this time from any of the commissioners? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
For the sake of discussion, I'll second it. And I guess I have a question for Grant. We got from Moorhead, we got the correspondence. Did you get a chance to talk to Dan at all about, has it had a positive impact? Has it impacted the existing businesses? And I guess the other thing I wanted you to talk about was, if there's an establishment in a private home, that is going to be exempted. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, thanks, Commissioner. I did talk to Dan, and he did emphasize up front there was a lot of work and a lot of discussion, just like there is tonight. But after that was implemented, they haven't had any direct impact or any repercussions from the industry or patrons. He said it went smoothly after that, and the program's working as intended in Moorhead. As far as your other question, in-home businesses, no, the city of Moorhead does license in-home businesses. We are proposing not to, just because I kind of brought up, it's kind of like that Airbnb. It just apples, it's not there. And it's too hard to get in those homes and regulate those businesses. So we looked at the land development code, which kind of regulates how many patrons can go in homes and different parameters utilizing that. And so that's what we're staying with, is the brick and mortar and commercial space.
Can I just ask one more follow-up, Mr. Chair? I guess my question is, from the law enforcement perspective, did this eliminate or reduce the trafficking thing that to me, that's what a lot of this is targeting. And so did that have an effective impact? I guess and maybe our chief can't answer that. Maybe that's something that Moorhead can. But to me, these are small businesses, and my perspective is we want to help them, not harm them. And that's my concern. So thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Good question. From a law enforcement perspective, the regulation absolutely decreases human trafficking from occurring. And what I've seen both in Wisconsin, in large part from city to city that did not have an ordinance regulating this, was they had human trafficking. And so by virtue of putting this in place, you are actually securing legitimate businesses and helping them in being successful in eliminating businesses that are otherwise illegitimate. Nationally, human trafficking massage parlor business, you can just Google it. It's all over, city by city. I received an article last week or 2 weeks ago. Denver just passed an ordinance because Aurora, Colorado had passed an ordinance a couple of years previously, and all the illegal businesses were going to Denver. They broke up a large human trafficking group during that time, and now they've passed an ordinance. And so really, from a law enforcement perspective, you are doing a lot of prevention in that realm without any harm to the business.
Commissioner Preston.
Yeah, if I could, this isn't a question, just a comment. I have received a lot of emails, and I appreciate all the communication by all means. It's certainly, like you mentioned, Grant, there's a lot of passion behind this industry. As a nurse and as a person who does use massage therapist, the purpose of this truly is to ensure public safety, in my mind, that when an individual walks into an establishment, they know that they're walking into a place that has a licensed, a credible, competent therapist. The intent with this is to attempt to get rid of the illegitimate, unlicensed businesses. So that's why I fully support this.
Also, as a physician myself, I think you have to think of yourself in your role as a therapist. I, as a physician, I used to chuckle a little bit about it. You would put your diplomas in your room so people could read them or know that you're qualified in what you do. And as a surgeon, it's almost too late. Because I've operated on you, you aren't to have opportunity to look at my diploma. But the reality is that you offer something I can't do. I can give meds, or I can do surgery, but you have a therapy in which you can give healing to people or help them in many ways. And it's an art and it's a practice in which you add an adjunct to help heal people and to help them become better. And Denny Wallaker used to go to massage once a week. And I would time my timing to talk to him when it was after his massage because he was in a much better mood, easy to deal with. But he had aches and pains and different things that bothered him. He's a big man and different issues. We're not trying to harm you or disrespect you in any way. This is an ordinance which we think will be helpful, and I think that it is not meant to harm, it's meant to help. But I know there's division in the team and everybody in this room. But sometimes, as we look at it, in a sense, when Arlette says it, it's a safety issue for us, and it's a trafficking issue as well. And we'd like to know when I walk into a massage therapist, I'm getting the massage that I expect. Any other comments, Chris Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to thank everybody on all sides of this issue for sharing and for putting yourselves out there, for putting information before us, for putting your heart on your lapel and caring about the issue of human trafficking. I think that's an absolute front burner issue in our culture. When this topic first surfaced, I didn't know much about massage therapy as a profession. So my first inclination was to reach out to those folks I do know. Some of them are local or national leaders, and I defer to them. Help me understand this issue. What I've learned from them is they're extraordinarily concerned will do harm to their industry, to their profession. I think that's a cardinal rule in medicine, do the patient no harm. If you're a politician, do the people no harm. So I somewhere we have to find a balance of how do we still, how do we address human trafficking and at the same time respect the profession that is there in front of us and here. I've also learned that apples and oranges. We don't always compare to other places or other jurisdictions or other laws or other policies. So somewhere in there we have to figure out what's best for Fargo. I can't imagine anybody would in any way do anything to help fuel human trafficking. It's just disgusting. I can't imagine that. I'm not sure this is the answer or not to that bigger question. I'm looking forward to learning more, but at this point, I'm going to listen to the folks I asked for their best advice. And I'm going to honor it, not knowing where this will go, but that's where I'm at, is I asked for their advice, I laid it out there that I'm going to listen and learn, and to the best of my knowledge, I've learned they're very concerned about this industry. All of that said, I'd like to see this topic go to Bismarck and the legislature address it and have them look at it. They have the state board, they have the licensing, they have the certifications, they have the implementations in place. They're also probably aware there's concerns in Fargo about gaps and problems. So I think at a minimum, the state needs to put some focus on this topic.
Mr. Garrick.
Yeah, human trafficking is bad. We all agree on that. There's no discussion about that. We have presented a law here to try to get rid of human trafficking here in Fargo. Will it be effective? I don't know. The chief seems very sure that it will, but I've received no information about, city X that put this in place and it went down X% or it did what it was supposed to do. I've received none of that. What I do know is that when we put new laws into place, they aren't harmless. They often cost money, they cost resources, they cost headaches for the business owners and things like that. They are not harmless. Often what government does is we see a problem, we do something, we do anything, and then we say, we fixed the problem. When often we didn't fix the problem, but we caused different problems while the existing problem or still exists. So until I see evidence that this is effective in numbers, I won't add more burden to the small business owner.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston?
Aye.
Pipcorn?
Aye.
Gary?
No.
Strand?
No.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 42, first reading for the ordinance relating to wildlife management program regulations. This is going to Chief, is it discusses this, Eric? Is that what goes on? Or is it just the motion?
I think it's just a motion, but if you have questions, either the chief
Any
or Alyssa
questions of
could
the
answer
chief?
questions.
Is there a motion to approve the first reading title only of the ordinance repealing Article 12-4, Chapter 12 of the Fargo Municipal Code relating to wildlife management program regulations, and to place the ordinance on the second reading for the next regularly scheduled meeting? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I moved a table for 6 months.
There's a move to table for 6 months. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second.
Now we vote.
We just have to vote, roll call vote.
Can we, no comments?
It's non-debatable.
All right.
Gary?
Yes.
Pipcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
No.
Strand?
No.
Mahoney?
No.
Now we can debate the original if Dave
Back
wants
to the
to.
main motion.
Well, it's basically going to be this year, then 6 months is next season, basically.
The point I was trying to make is if we don't take any action for the next 6 months, nothing happens. There's no advantage to doing it today versus in 6 months. The advantage of waiting 6 months is to allow that discussion. We get to look at our season this year and have another year of saying, okay, was it safe? Did anyone get hurt? Did we lose any arrows? We have that much more data. And additionally, there's more questions being asked with the advent of the board or the task force that we had. They have additional questions being asked for that survey. So what's the harm in giving it another 6 months and gathering that data, having that debate? And if you guys feel the same way in 6 months, then vote the same way in 6 months. And there's absolutely nothing lost. But if we get rid of it right now, we're just ignoring that data that happened this year, the hunt that happened this year. Maybe we had a great year. Maybe we had double the amount of deer taken this year. Maybe we had a terrible year, and we can take that into effect. But it's not without harm to get rid of it immediately versus waiting 6 months.
Commissioner Pepcorn?
So, Mr. Chair, so then if we vote in favor of this, we're going to eliminate the wildlife management, so then we're going to do nothing. We're going to have zero. And so that's our wildlife management plan is zero. So we're just going to let it, and then what'll happen is then when it gets bad enough, then the public, which we've had a lot of public response, then we'll do something. That's not how we do it. We are leaders. You have to have a wildlife management program, whether you like it or not. We have to do that. And the reason that we don't have an issue right now with deer is because we have a wildlife management program. We are managing the deer population right now. And when we stop, the deer population is going to increase. And then the public will get upset. And then what will we have to do? Employ sharpshooters for, what did he say? $200,000 instead of having our local archers. And then the deer that are harvested, do you know where the protein goes to? Homeless, to our food pantry. So it's just unbelievably short-sighted. I insist that we have a wildlife management program. Just saying we're not going to have one is not an option. The end. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Preston?
I would suggest, Commissioner Pipcorn, that we, and you're interested in having a wildlife management program, get in touch with Game and Fish, because obviously the deer that are coming into the city along the river are not just staying in the city. They're coming in from outside the city, obviously. And I would suggest that you get in touch with Game and Fish. And I agree. I think we do need a wildlife management program, but this doesn't seem to be doing it sufficiently anyway. So let's get something that really works.
Any other discussion? Commissioner McGarry.
To say it's not working, I don't understand. I mean, based on what? We haven't had anyone hit by a deer on their car. We talk about safety a lot up here, right? We talk about public safety and things like that. I ride a motorcycle. The first time someone hits a deer on a motorcycle and they die, because that's a very violent act, that's gonna be on us. If they're driving right by Lindenwood Park, for example, there is a lot of deer there. And the grave site that's right south of there, if you drive past there are dozens of deer in there at any given time. I used to live on 18th Avenue right next to there. And I saw buck and doe in my yard a half mile away from the river all the time. And the first time someone gets injured or killed because they hit it with their vehicle, it's going to be on us. And to say it's not working now, there is no proof of that. It's the same way it is to say that it's dangerous right now. There is no proof of that. So we're basing our decision on flat out lies. This is conjecture. This is your feeling. And at some point it is a lie because there's no evidence to back up what you're saying. To say it's dangerous is a lie because you know better.
Commissioner Strand.
Well, it's not a lie if somebody says they choose to live in a city where they aren't discharging weapons. Because there are people who don't want to live in a city where they're discharging weapons. There are people who don't want to live in a city where you have gun shops in your neighborhood. We're contesting that. I would, however, like to learn, because we've had a lot of input, and I think we all want to learn and listen. There was one email suggesting that we learn and study a contraception program as a wildlife management program. I'd like to learn more about that. I don't know if the chief, what your interaction with the State Game and Fish has been, but it should be, we really should look at this topic in the broader view of everybody, not just, bottom line, I'm not inclined to, right now, without knowing all the options, to say, well, I'm okay going forward with weapon discharges. That's just where I'm at.
So, Mr. Chair, I would love to take up Commissioner Preston's challenge. And so what I would love to do is chair a committee, but I would include the Park District and the Game and Fish Department and not have the police department, but let's find out all the truth, all the costs, all the options. Let's do that. So, and whatever we do tonight, I think we should do that. I'd be happy to take the time, volunteer my services. What my high compensation for city commission is already overwhelming, according to Eric, but I would love to. And I do think we need to know more about this because there's way more to this. And this is a big decision for a long time. And especially, I'm telling you, with the flood protection, the diversion green space is huge. And so there's a lot of things more to this. So I would happily serve, Mr. Mayor. If you want to pick somebody else, that's fine, but Commissioner Preston volunteered me, so you let me know.
The chief tried to work with the park board and the wildlife management people. I think it's a great idea if you want to sit down with them and try to get that to go forward, because that was a good concern we had as the police were involved. Right now, it falls back on the police. If you get a triangle that works together and can get it off the payroll of the police and move it over to the park board and the wildlife people get involved. And second, if you get what you want to call a wildlife program, let's talk about a wildlife program. How many deer are out there? How many should they take out every year? How would be best to do that? Do you close the park for 2 weeks and let people hunt and get it done? Just consider every option you can consider that separate arrows from people. So if we can have people enjoy the parks, hunt certain times, fine. I'm willing to make that motion is to table it until you have a committee that does that.
I'll second the motion. But I will say, so if any other commissioners, one other commissioner wants to join, but I think this is legit, and it's a collaboration. Like today at lunchtime, when we all collaborate, we get a lot of stuff done, and it turns out to be a lot better project. So I think it's a good thing.
Commissioner Gard.
Just to be clear, you're making an amendment to the motion to table it until you get this program in place and you want to chair it. And how long do you need to get that together?
And I'll give it 60 days.
60 days?
Yeah.
60 days sounds pretty short.
You want 90?
I want at least 90.
Dave, how quick are you?
Sounds good. 90 days is good.
And I'll second that, and that will be the modification to the motion then.
I would accept the modification.
Well, here's the other thing. I don't want to get the mayor in trouble because is it correct? He should pass the gavel before he makes a
I
motion.
was going to say, he's already in trouble because you're now chairing this meeting.
If Dave makes the motion and I second it, we're still in good standing, right?
No, Mr. Chairman, if I could make a comment. I would ask the chief, you've had conversations with Game and Fish and Park District. The only thing I would say about a delay is that all of that has been done. The chief has spent lots of time and energy. The police department has spent a lot of time and energy on this issue. It's silly to pull them in to another conversation for the next 90 days. So I say get this done. Then, Commissioner Pepcorn, you can organize your Game and Fish meeting and take it from there.
Mr. Chair, right now, she made the offer, I took it up. Let's go. 90 days. And I no offense to the chief of police, but I want the Park District and us and Game and Fish. But the other thing is there's a census of the number of deer that takes place. So those are all important things and to find out what our options are, so.
To point of order, if you made the motion and you seconded it, then I'm the chair, right? I'm just saying, because you can't.
I didn't second it though, because I made the original
you
motion.
can't
but
second.
seconded
You
it.
seconded it, so I'm still the chair, right? The chair can't second.
The general notion is the chair doesn't second, right?
So the chair made the motion.
He would need to pass.
He passed the gavel to him.
Gavel.
He seconded it, so now I'm the chair. Right?
Whatever.
Any further discussion? Okay, we're going to vote on the modification. Roll call vote.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Gary,
Yes.
Preston,
This is on the amendment,
On the
right?
amendment.
No.
Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Okay, we're going to vote on it as amended. Roll call vote.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Gary.
Yes.
Preston,
No.
Strand.
Yes.
Can I have the gavel
You can
back?
have the gavel back. That was my first time, by the way.
Way to go. Way to go, Tony. Don't let the power go to your head, Commissioner Garrick.
Item 43, the second and final adoption ordinance relating to the City of Fargo Police Advisor and Oversight Board. First reading was done on the 15th. Is there a motion to waive the second reading at length of the ordinance enacting section 5-0400 through 5-0411 of Article 5-04 of Chapter 5 of the Fargo Municipal Code relating to the Fargo Police Advisor and Oversight Board?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Gary.
No.
Pepcorn.
No.
Mahoney.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the second reading and the final passage of the ordinance enacting section 5-0400 through 5-0411 of Article 5-04 of Chapter 5 of the City Municipal Code relating to the Fargo Police Advisor and Oversight Board? Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Excuse me, Mayor, I'm confused.
Yeah, I am too.
Eric, do you want to explain?
Normally, this is handled in a single motion, but there are actually two things going on. One is the waiving of the reading at length,
Okay.
but that needs to be approved unanimously. If it isn't approved unanimously, then somehow either you need to read it at length now or schedule a time to read it at length. So frequently when you know there's going to be a nay vote on the substance of it, if you separate the motions, everyone will agree to waive the second reading these days, usually unanimously, and then you can move. Then you can handle the motion, substance of the ordinance, which is actually second reading and final passage.
So Dave and I voted no on waiving the reading. Is that what you just said?
Right.
Okay, so as a person who I'd like to reconsider if I can do that. Am I able to do that?
Yes.
I'd like to reconsider that vote then. Dave, do you want to read it, the whole thing? Okay, so if you would have to second it to reconsider it.
I'll second it.
Okay. And now we vote, right?
Yeah, vote to reconsider.
Yeah,
The first motion, we're going to re-go over.
right. So we'd all vote yes to waive the reading.
Well,
Roll call vote.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye.
So it's back on the table. Now you have to have another vote on waiving of the second reading.
Which we don't need unanimous, it's just who
No,
puts
you'll
it.
need
Unanimous
unanimous
again.
to waive the reading. We're just waiving the reading right now. We're back on that original motion, which was to waive reading.
It's the same vote. We should all vote yes to waive the reading if we don't want to hear the whole thing.
You haven't gotten to the substantive motion yet. You're
So
still-
we're at the first motion
You're still
again.
back to the first motion, and
Do I have a
cross our
motion?
fingers and get it unanimous.
I move to waive the reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Is there a motion to approve the second reading and final passage of ordinance enacting section of 504 to 541 of Fargo Municipal Code? Does this need a unanimous motion as well, Gary?
No, that does not.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Preston,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Gary,
No.
Pepcorn.
No.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item 44, you have applications for tax exemptions, improvements made to buildings. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Gary.
Yes.
Preston.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move, and happy Hanukkah to everybody out there.
Second.
This is a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.